Ramsey. Councillor John Boyle.
Here.
Councillor Angela Dobbins.
Online, Connor.
Councillor Stephen Edwards.
Here, Connor.
Councillor Rachel Ferguson.
Here, Connor.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Sure.
Councillor Dan Kelly sent his apologies. Councillor Emma McGinley.
And Shaw, online, Connor.
Councillor Rory McHugh.
Sure.
Councillor Maeve O'Neill.
Online, Connor.
And Councillor Martin Riley. Okay, members, I'll just read the webcast announcement. I would like to remind everyone.
No, sorry, go ahead. I was going to do that, but if you can do that, Connor, I'll let you turn away. That's great.
Okay, thanks, Chair. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This webcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. If you are seated in the lower public seating media areas, it is possible that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. This may infringe your human and data protection rights, and if you wish to avoid this, you should move to the upper public gallery. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Connor. And we'll just leave it. Has anyone got any declaration of members' interest to raise at this stage? If they want to raise it now, or if they want to raise it as and when the item comes up. If there's nothing then being raised, the next stage, Chair, Connor and members, is the presentation from 4 Hours Recycling CIC. So I'll hand over now, Connor, to yourselves.
Okay, Chair, thanks. And Tara is on from 4 Hours.
How are you all? Thank you very much for allowing us time to present to you today. It's myself, Tara, the manager, and I have one of my project workers here, Georgina Lavey. I need to start with an apology. The PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to refer to throughout the presentation today has been amended from the ones that maybe you have in front of you. But the updated version will be put out for the internet and public viewing, so I apologise for that. Slide, please. The 4 Hours was established in 2013 as a waste project to work alongside in partnership with Council to reduce items going to landfill. We are funded primarily by Department for Communities, National Lottery, Housing Executive and the European Social Fund. As I said, we are partners of Derry Strabane District Council, and we work alongside a number of other community projects also. Our social enterprise is designed to reduce the amount of material going to landfill, and we also make items to order for the public. And any donated furniture and white goods are upcycled, repaired or resold in the New to You community shop. All monies generated are put back into the 4 Hours to pay for materials, qualifications or additional services that may be needed. And the 4 Hours building hosts several programmes to serve the people of Derry and Strabane district. Slide, please. Slide again, please. Sorry. Thank you. Without the donations from the local community, our shop wouldn't be where it is today. Our motto is by the community for the community. And recent studies have shown that Northern Ireland is in the grip of furniture poverty. We want to engage and enable local people to benefit from pre-loved and affordable furniture and white goods that we have coming in and we then sell through our shop. We want to help make household items more attainable and affordable, and to help the local community make their house a home. Hi, please. Georgina.
We offer a programme of group workshops to teach the basics of upcycling, joinery and white good maintenance. We want to reduce socialisation by offering a safe environment for females to come, meet other females from similar backgrounds and increase their social connections. We aspire to help and maintain and improve mental health and well-being of females by instilling them with confidence, self-belief and a can-do attitude. We will provide the females with the skills to enable them to carry out projects within their own properties to make their property a home for themselves and their families. The service we offer will enable individuals to sustain their tenancies by giving them the skills to carry out independent DIY, reducing the social and financial costs of tenancy turnover. Slide, please. We also have adapted the She Shed programme so that we can offer to individuals of any age or sex. This has opened up the programme to the wider community so that anyone from the Derry and Strabane district can avail and learn these vital skills. Again, the sheds will provide social connection, the opportunities to build friendships, and to offer practical and emotional support. We are an equal opportunities organisation that works to help build a barrier-free community. Slide, please.
Thank you. The Active Inclusion programme is an employability project for 16 to 64-year-olds, which is funded by the European Social Fund. The programme supports participants with mild to severe learning and physical disabilities to overcome barriers to employment through person-centred planning to develop their employability, personal and social skills, and to achieve accredited qualifications. We work with local organisations such as Destined, Ardnashee, Foyle Down Syndrome Trust, Apex, the Western Trust, and Action Mental Health. Are offered opportunities for work placements and work sampling with local organisations. Our job clinic provides support with job searching, CV writing, application completion, and interview preparation. Slide, please.
Project. There's currently over 4,500 individuals in the Derry and Strabane district waiting on the social housing list. The cost of living is rising daily, and recently, even with the support, people are struggling to make their house a home. Here at the 4 Hours, we believe no one should be without a home. When someone is transitioning from being homeless to having their new home, it can be overwhelming. The cost of moving, furnishing your home can cause financial worries or even difficulties. The Homes for All programme has been designed to help all individuals who are moving from some form of homelessness to their permanent home. Participants who took part in the project have benefited from a range of furniture and white goods. We also have a range of other services that they can avail of, such as interview clothing scheme, access to telephone, internet and printer, benefit advisors, exercise classes, on-site food pantry, and referral to the local food bank, referral to addiction services, referral for counselling session, access to one of our DIY programs, the joinery, upcycling and white goods maintenance, free of cost. And we also offered a one-off fuel payment of £100 towards gas, oil, or £50 towards electricity. Slide, please. As you can see, at the 4 Hours, we can take almost ordinary broken furniture items that would normally go to landfill, and we can make them into unique furniture out of it. Slide, please.
Thank you. The 4 Hours work with a number of organisations in the local community on different projects, and here are a few of our recent projects. We worked with Craig and Country Park to design and make bat boxes. We worked with Seagate and produced a unique design of bee gardens using recycled wood that Seagate provided. Not only was this cost effective, it was environmentally friendly, as the wood provided was originally destined for landfill. Finally, we worked on a number of projects with Derry City and Strabane Council. For example, on Ferricky Street, the flower planters on the one-way system. We've also been involved with the Maritime Festival and have designed and manufactured a number of pieces of large outdoor furniture from recycled products. And all these pieces were made from donated furniture and wood from community and local businesses, such as Cable and Accessories. Slide, please.
Schools engagement. We currently work closely with several schools in the Derry and Strabane district. We've partnered with Council and work with School Employers Connection to promote recycling, reusing, reskilling, and to highlight employment opportunities in the greener economy. Slide, please.
So that is the 4 Hours in a nutshell. Thank you very much, as I said, for allowing us to engage with you today. If there are any questions, we're happy to take them. Otherwise, you're all welcome to call down for a site tour, a site visit, and we'll show you our facilities and what we can do and what we do. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you very much for giving your presentation. I'm remotely here at the minute, so if there's anyone who wishes to come in and comment. If they can shout out, I just don't have the chat box at the minute, or if they're in the chamber, they can indicate Conor. So I'll leave it with you, members.
Chair, if you're happy, I'll take them in order here. Councillor Dobbins.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you,
Conor.
Conor.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for that, Tara. That was excellent, Tara. I'm very much. Now I was down yesterday, so yeah, I see the layout, and I have to. I would like you to reiterate your invitation that I know to all of us to come down and at some stage and have a wee tour. But I'm very interested in your other services, that you do provide. I think this is brilliant. Even the most outgoing person can have inclusion barriers or some sort of barrier. So I'm very much interested in that, and I would like you to elaborate a wee bit on that. As I've said, the she shed, and it's very hard to say. The she shed is excellent, absolutely excellent. There are certain females out there who can change tires and do everything, and then there's females out there that can't even change a plug. So yeah, I think that is brilliant. As I say, one person's junk is another person's treasure. And when I seen the things yesterday that you have made, it's amazing with a wee bit of imagination what you can do. And the mere fact that it is keeping it away from landfill is excellent. But it's those other services, Tara, if you could maybe just a wee bit elaborate on them. I think it's brilliant, the work that you have done, and happy to contribute more from time to time.
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, the She Shed was born out of a pilot that we ran last year with the Housing Executive. So it's funded by Housing Executive, and it is to help sustain tenancies. And they identified that the majority of tenancies were single females. And they wanted to have them connected to the local community and learn skills and be able to do things around the house, to upcycle products rather than throw them away, and basically turn their house into a home. And that's become the kind of catchline of it. But the idea of the She Shed is not only to skill people, but it is also to provide a safe, welcoming environment for females to connect from similar backgrounds, a safe space where they could make friends, become connected to the local communities, and just basically have 2 hours out of their week where it was just for them, to learn something for them and take something home that they could do in the house. And one of the things that we found that was really sweet was 2 ladies came in to the She Shed way back at the start, and they got talking, and they actually realised that they were neighbours. They lived in the same street, but they'd never spoken to each other. They didn't realise they were neighbours. So that's what it's all about. It's all about connecting with each other and connecting with the local community, and reducing social isolation. After lockdowns and the pandemic and everything, social isolation has become a very big thing, and it can be very detrimental to mental health. So again, having those connection facilities and being able to communicate and chat, but it also then allows us to, when people get talking and they get comfortable, they can talk about things, or they can let things slip that they normally wouldn't. And so things like, if they were struggling with their rent or something like that, we could then signpost them on to, advice centres or their patch manager or financial inclusion manager within the Housing Executive. So it's all about those, it's the holistic approach as well. It's not just the skilling, the reskilling, the upskilling and the learning of the DIY and stuff. It's also about the holistic nature of it as well. In terms of the She Shed, we offer 3 courses at the minute. So it's the upcycling, the basic joinery and the white goods diagnostics. But we're also working now on 2 new projects or programs to bring in from the She Shed, and one is basic household DIY. So I was just walking around the house one morning going, I need a tile rail, but I don't know how to put the tile rail up because I don't know what type of wall that is and what kind of, drill bit to use. So it's wee things like that, basic stuff that a lot of people would know, but some people wouldn't. And then with the electrical DIY basics. It's things like, you know, how do you check the filter in your washing machine, or how often should you clean your washing machine out, and how would you do that? And, you know, because the internet can be a minefield of information. So it's all about those basic skills as well that a lot of people just don't have, and a lot of people take for granted that everybody does have, you know. And then because we're inclusive, we didn't want the males to feel left out. So we have a general shed, and that's where males and females can come in and work on those topics as well, and those programs also. And it's very popular. It has become very popular. And on the days where we teach and they come in, it's a buzz of activity in the place, and it's great. It really is great to see, you know. So as I said, it's just about creating that safe, welcoming environment where people can feel free to come in and not feel embarrassed and not feel, oh my God, I can't do that and I should be able to do that. You know, everybody comes in here and they're all equal, and we all start off on the same footing, and they all learn the same things, and it's working for us at the minute.
Thank you, Tara.
Connor, I'll let you tear away with your last behalf. Thank you.
Okay, Chair, thanks for that. Councillor Ferguson is looking in next.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Tara, for the presentation. I'm absolutely in love with the projects you have going on down there. I know I didn't know a great deal of them until I actually got down to visit, and you are fighting hard for the Homes for All funding, because you know, it broke my heart to hear the story of the man being moved from Belfast to Derry with no connections, and your team worked so hard to even just get a social worker involved, a doctor involved. You know, it wasn't just about supplying furniture, it was looking after that person and making sure they have connections in the community. So I think it's something that all the members here should get down to see. I'm just wondering, by the way, I want to come to the shed because I don't know how to change a plug, and I don't know how to change my filters, but I'd love to come down to that someday. I wanted to just check, I know one of the things that you'd highlighted to me was that you had been low on appliances, white good appliances, and you were getting some from the Pennyburn, but you were hoping to kind of branch out, and I'm wondering whether you have been able to do that for the likes of the Strathfoyle Recycling Centre and the other ones that we have you been able to get more resources from them? And apologies, I am babysitting my sister's too, so I now have 5 in the house, and there's a few of them running past me like a chalk. But thank you again for coming, and I can't wait to get back down and see you, and hopefully we'll get more funding for that Homes for All project too. Thank you.
So thank you, and you're very welcome to come onto the She Shed. We'll be happy to have you. We're happy to see you again. With regards to the white goods, yes, it's been great. We've been able to get down to Strathfoyle, and we've been out as far as Dunamana as well, and we've been able to get an awful lot of machines coming through. In fact, one of the guys from Dunamana said that whenever he gets a stockpile of white goods that he feels would be good for us, he'll give us a wee ring, save us going up and down the road all the time. So that's good. We've made connections there. And I've also we had a meeting with Connor way back in sort of April time, and a suggestion was put forward about contacting the likes of Currys and things. I'm still working on that because Currys actually have an organisation called Green Bee, and all the returns from Currys go to this organisation called Green Bee in Belfast. I'm waiting for them to contact me, but it is in my diary that if I do not hear from them by the end of this month, I will be going back to them to say, look, what is going on here? Especially dairy returns, returns from the city rather than going to Belfast, carbon footprint and stuff. Keep them here. We can do things with them here, you know. So we are working to see if we can get more electrical goods also. But yes, Rachel, in answer to your question, the other recycling plants have been very, very helpful, and we do have access to them, yeah.
Okay, Chair, Alderman Devaney is looking in next.
Thank you, Connor, for allowing me in, and just kind of say thank you on behalf of the DEP to Tara and her team for coming on here today and giving us a wonderful presentation and around the work that they do. And I do understand, Tara, the crisis that we're in the minute, the cost of living crisis, and you talked about, we know the issue in around 4,500 in housing stress, and do you get a house, where do they get cheap furniture, or where can they get as cheap as possible? And it's good to hear that the likes of this organisation is recycling furniture and white goods as well, because you know, with the crisis where a lot of people are not able to afford brand new furniture, and when we look at the prices of it, it is skyrocketing through the roof. But look, I just want to put on a record or commendment to yous and the team that you're doing, because look, yous are bringing people in, yous are training, yous are upskilling, yous are recycling, and you, as you quite rightly said, you know, people come to your events and your training, and it's about the social aspect. It's about breaking down those barriers that somebody who comes in with you, whether it's stress, financial stress, or mental stress, or family issues, or what it might be, it gives them that opening there that they can speak, and it gives them the initiative for yourselves for to be able to direct those people in the right direction, whether it's financial, mental health, or suicidal, or whatever it may be, or you know, whether it's alcoholism or drug awareness and stuff like that there. And look, I saw from your photographs some of the work that you've done, and I do recognise the planters on Fergie Street, so I do. I see them every time I walk up that street, and they're lovely when they're out in bloom. But I have to say, just to commend you and keep up the good work. And I believe we as council should. I know you're you said you're in conversation with Connor. No better man to be in conversation with about recycling stuff from our recycling centres and stuff like that there. And it's vitally important because, you know, we have become a throwaway society for this last decade or more. And look, I was brought up in an era where we were reared in second-hand clothes coming from church sales and other places. And that's just the way it was back then. Many's the time I remember going to school with my jumper, the arms maybe about 4 inches too long. My mother would just wrap them up in the morning, or my jeans was too long. They were just turned up in the bottom and you were sent on. But can I just congratulate you on the work that you're doing and keep up the good work? Thanks, Connor.
Okay, Chair. Councillor O'Neill has indicated she's looking to speak next.
Thanks, Connor, and thank you for coming to present today. I've been down quite a number of times to the 4R Centre, and you know, the space down there is just really, really excellent. It's and the location, I think, is really, really key. Being beside the recycling centre, because you know, the 4 hours it enables it saves waste from being wasted in a way. You divert it from landfill in a way that can be reused or repaired or repurposed and refashioned. And I think you know, that is really, really essential to be part of, to be right beside the recycling centre, so that we can really develop our zero waste circular economy locally. And I think you are doing just that, and building that community, building those connections with people and upskilling people, and things that I think people would have learned naturally from their local communities years ago. You know, we're needing to create these spaces for people to share these skills, to learn how to repair and repurpose and reuse. And I've met with the Homes for All project officers as well, and you know, I think you know, what you are doing around connecting zero waste circular economy, you know, with you know, it's a working class project really, because you know, there's no point in buying something new when you can reuse something, and or you can repurpose something, and you know, at the end of the day, it saves people money, but it also saves like our council money whenever you're stopping things going to landfill, because as I say, waste is only waste if you waste it. And you know, like, we're very thankful, like from a zero waste northwest point of view, to the 4 hours space for the life cycles project, because again, you know, the space down there is excellent for, you know, fixing up bicycles, and I know that zero waste northwest has worked with you in the past. And really the possibilities are endless. I'm sure every day you're thinking about new projects and new ways to repurpose waste. And you know, I think you could multiply your resource by 2 or by 5, and you would still have more and more ideas and more opportunities to really you know, build into the zero waste circular economy. Just a question that I would have is around, like, kind of measuring you know, your impact around the tonnage of waste that you are saving from landfill. You know, like, have we been looking at that from when you opened and began, and like, you know, is that increasing every year, or you know, and are there any difficulties around? Because I know sometimes once a resource goes under the skip, you're not allowed to take it out because of the EU waste regulations. And is there any, what are those challenges, and are there ways that those can be overcome, and just kind of what other opportunities, like, because I know the big problems when it comes to waste is the white goods really, and the textiles, and with textiles and old sofas and things, like I think that can be quite problematic, around fire certificates and things like that, particularly for old bits of furniture. So just about kind of like what are those challenges, and maybe how have you overcome them, or what opportunities do you see for overcoming those as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maeve. And yeah, it was great to see you down talking and engaging with the Homes for All engagement officers. In terms of the tonnage, we, as we're DFC funded, we have a progress report that we have to send to DFC every quarter. So I actually did look at the figures for the last year and the last quarter. So obviously we were impacted by COVID and the restrictions coming into the recycling plant, obviously for safety. So in 2021-22, we managed to save 42.44 tonnes of furniture from landfill. And in the first quarter of 2022-23, so the 1st of April to the 30th of June, we've managed to save 12.61 tonnes, or divert 12.61 tonnes of furniture and electrical items from landfill. Obviously, we're always striving to increase that number, and we're always striving to take as much as we can in and reuse as much as we can. Fixings, fittings from furniture and things like that. In terms of the upholstery and the fabric furniture, that is something that is a challenge for us, because at the minute I don't have any upholsterers. I don't have anybody that can repair upholstery. We do try and find organisations and see if we can, direct people somewhere else where they can sort of take those things to get them fixed, or we would maybe take it in and say, right, we'll see if we can, take it somewhere else rather than it going into landfill. We're always striving to see if we can do something else and think outside the box. But again, there's a nature of community voluntary funded organisations. If I wanted a poster, I need to find a funded application and fill it out and successfully get the money to employ an upholsterer. And it's something that we are looking at. It's on my list. It's not something that I completely said it's not going to happen. It is something that frustrates us. So we are working on that at the moment, Maeve, to see what we can find. The public are very generous. The stuff that we get is of a very high quality. It's very rare that we get something that we can't use. So we are very lucky in that respect. But as I said, the tonnage we have to report every quarter to DFC as part of my target. And as I said, we're striving to increase, to get a higher target, a higher number diverted from landfill every year.
Okay, and just to add to that, in terms of Councillor O'Neill's question about getting materials from the site, the 4 hours is within the licensed recycling centre, and on that basis, they have full access to all materials, and that's part of the licence condition. It becomes problematic when others look to have access to material, but that's something that we can work through. The next indicated speaker is Councillor McGinley.
Very good, Conor, and thank you to Tara and Georgina on behalf of Sinn Féin. That presentation was fantastic. I know I wasn't down myself, but we have had representatives that have come down to the 4 hours. I think Ciara, Ferguson and Patricia, and that was down. So they've came back and they've told us all about it, and it's incredible the work that you are doing, particularly in and around the environmental side of it. I don't think there's very many other projects that are doing at the scale of what you are doing, and that's incredible. Georgina had sort of touched on the Homes for All project, which is where we have made the contact initially in terms of our representatives coming down, and particularly in and around the housing crisis that we're in, and that everybody does need a home is vitally important. And I'm sure you are aware that the Mayor's Charity this year's first housing aid and support services. We also provide support to those that are starting out new homes, and I'm sure there's some form of partnership working with yourselves and different organisations across the city and district. But I think that just sort of hits home the housing need and the support that's needed there. So I just want to congratulate you on that holistic approach, Tara, that you had touched on. It's not just giving people furniture; it's providing actual support for them, and real sort of skills as to how to move forward. I'm just going to finish because the one that really touched, hit home with me through your presentation was your motto of by the community for the community. And I just think that's unreal. It's fantastic. And it just sums up exactly what you're about. So thank you for coming in today, and thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Thanks very much, Emma. Thank you.
Chair, the last indicated speaker is Councillor Doyle.
Thanks, Connor. Hello, Tara and Georgina. Hope everything's well down there.
Thank you.
Really appreciate the work that goes on down in 4 hours. You know, I've been down a few times, and I think it's one of the most innovative projects we have right across the city and district, in all its constituent parts. It's something that I think that needs to be looked at more closely by council and by DFC in terms of long-term funding, because, like Maeve said, I'm sure you could come up with 1,000 different things to be doing. And it would be remiss of me not to mention the amount of hard work outside of your normal work that went on whenever you helped me distribute free solid fuel to constituents over that period. I know you were swamped, and it was so very much appreciated by myself and so many others. But in particular, with regards to the Homes for All project, I know that there's been some issues with funding there, and I've spoken to Una McGillian, for example, around how we can support that as council. And I know Connor would be helpful if in conversations after and ongoing with us that we see what we can do to support the project, because I really see the value of, you know, as someone who deals with a lot of housing cases, as I'm sure many of colleagues do, you know, once we get someone a roof over their head, sometimes that's all they have. And it's really important to see that support that's going on. So I know the work that Georgina and her colleagues been doing with that project's been fantastic, and it operates right across the city and district. You know, we had a conversation about this in the hardship working group about trying to find a way of supporting projects that operate right across the district, that are able to adapt and help people through what is a difficult time. So, you know, be assured that you have my full support. I know that goes right across all the parties and independents and council to try and see that project go from strength to strength, because it really is fantastic. So really grateful for you to come in here today, and you'll always have my support anytime. Just left the phone. Thank you.
Thank you, members. And I, along the line, there's no one else wishing to speak. And I'd just like to again thank the presenters for giving up their time and for the effort they put into the work that they're doing. And I wish them every success. And we can see what, have you anything further to add, Connor, in regards to how we can assist, or is that a conversation for another day in regards to what we can do to try and assist the group? Or will we leave that for another stage? Do we take a look and see?
Chair, this is a partnership. There is an active partnership between the reuse centre and council that is in fact the 4 hours. So we sit on the board as part of that, and council provides the facilities and provides the maintenance and upkeep of those facilities. And that's on the basis that there are things that council can do in terms of the waste licence and access to the materials and so on. And then there's much more that the resource centre through the 4 hours can do in terms of all the other projects. And it's just to say that, when I was involved in this at the start, I always looked at this as a waste project, and I've said many a time, it's much more than that. It's about all of the other things that Tara has mentioned there. And I think it's something that council is actively engaged in, and we'll certainly look to develop and take the programme forward.
Well, that's grand. Thank you very much, Connor, and thank you very much for the presentation. Members, are we content now to move on to item 6, which is chairperson's business? And in that regard, to be fair, members, I have had no one contact me in regards to chairperson's business, so we can swiftly move on to item 7, which is matters arising from the open minutes held on Wednesday, the 15th of June. Members, if you have an issue and you wish to raise it, you can shout out, or if you wish to put it in the chat box, and Connor can get it there.
Chair, I have Councillor Ferguson looking in on matters arising.
Yeah. Sorry, go on ahead, Rachel.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Chair. Chair, 2 seconds. I just want to get the number. It's ER 14122, Rights of Nature, and it's just basically I've been contacted by a constituent who was out along our quay and is seeing the beautiful fireboxes and all the stuff that's been done at the moment, but noticed that some of the pellets that we were using for slugs to try and keep them away were a blue colouring, and they were a bit worried that the blue colouring was in reference to a pellet that would have been banned since March 2022. It has like a metafide in it, which is to basically make it unappealing to birds. So I wanted to just raise it here. I told them I would just to check, because I know we have obviously the motion that we're trying to kind of go away as much as possible from the likes of different toxic kind of toxic pellets within our council. So just wanted to ask the question, with the pellets that we do have within our firing beds and stuff, would it be that blue pellet that has been banned since March, or is it a different type, just to reassure the constituent, if you don't mind, Chair? Thank you.
Chair, happy to take that. I don't have the information in front of me, but I certainly get it and distribute it to all members.
Thank
you,
you.
Connor.
Anyone else wish to raise an issue?
Chair, yeah, Alderman Hussey looking in.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Connor. ER 137, the date for the workshop. Is there any proposed date? Thank you.
Yeah, Chair, I'm looking to organise that in September, bearing in mind the holiday period. I have been talking to those involved in the process. I have some information I'm happy to discuss with you after the meeting, Alderman Hussey, just in terms of some of the high-level data at this stage. But we certainly have all of that information for the workshop that we intend to hold in September.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Connor. Thanks, Chair.
Madam Chair, I have Councillor Edwards looking in as well.
Go on ahead there, Stephen.
Chair, just as ER 141, Rights of Nature, I'm going to be slightly cheeky, Chair. Chair, over the last number of weeks in particular, I've got a number of pieces of correspondence about who's responsible for cutting grass in certain developments. I was mostly in the Derg and Strabane area, and I understand that there's old contracts in place and stuff with the housing executive, but I find it difficult at times getting clarity whether it's council or DFI or who's responsible for it. I was just wondering if officers could agree to maybe bring a wee report back to a future committee, just outlining what developments that council are responsible for, whether it's through those old housing executive contracts. I just think it would provide a bit of clarity and getting back to constituents. And I know that DFA are responsible for others, and then there's property management companies as well who are there or not there. Thinking in particular Castown Court, which is a big issue. It's something that's constantly getting messaged about, and especially for those areas that have property management companies or that have folded or so on, it's very, very difficult. But as a beginning, I would like to see what council are responsible for. So yeah, for my own knowledge, I think it would be beneficial, Chair, if that's okay. Thank you.
Chair, Alderman Hussey's looking in on a similar issue.
I know that's all right. Alderman Hussey, gone ahead for. I think we might be on the same line here, Alderman Hussey, regards that, but gone ahead.
I'm not sure if we might be. I have made inquiries, reference grass cutting, about the grass cutting between Prehen and new buildings. I'm told that that's entirely carried out by DFI. Is that the case? And if it is the case, do they have a different cutting policy on that area outside the 40 mile an hour limit than they do elsewhere in the council area? There certainly seems to be a high level of, I suppose, what you might call amenity attention to that stretch of road. And I regularly am trying to compare that to other stretches of road that may fall within DFI responsibility. And similarly, on the issue of within the 30 mile an hour limits, there's a growing concern, Councillor Edwards is totally correct, with regard to those areas where there would have been part of the agreement on cutting within particular housing estates, etc. But there's also concern at the amount of cutting or that might be undertaken within the 30 mile an hour limit. And that, for example, does, it's done by council on behalf of DFI, as I understand it, along footpaths, etc. But when it's done, there's no attempt to actually re-establish the actual edges of the footpaths. And one in particular that I would mention would be Killen. Maybe that's what Alderman Kerrigan might be coming in on. But the stretch from the community hall in Killen up to the primary school, the footpath there, for example, has got very, very narrow. The grass is cut, yes, but the encroachment that has occurred is still there and leads to a reduction in the width of the actual footpath. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I'll deal with some of that. We'll get a report into committee in terms of identifying those areas that council maintain. In general, council cut that, as far as I understand, that area from Braheen to new buildings is cut and maintained by council, but certainly I'll check that out. And again, in terms of grass cutting and encroachment onto walkways, when council cut the grass, it will be for DFI to do the aging, and they've done that over recent years, and there's certainly been a number of projects taken forward. Again, I'm happy to go back to DFI with specifics if members want to feed them through to me, and we'll bring a report into committee identifying those areas that council maintain, and probably more important for members is that that'll allow for those areas that we don't cut to be identified and considered at that point.
Thank you, Chair. That would be very, very much appreciated, Conor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Derek. And I was thought I was in the same line, but when you started mentioning Braheen, I says, no, I'm not. But yes, you were referencing in regards to Killen there. And just to follow on from that, is it within, or is there no real difference between within the 30 mile an hour speed limits and within the 40? Are we still meant to be kind of covering the two, or is that more DFI?
Generally, anything within the 30s, council will do. Now, that may depend on the area. It may extend to some 40 zones. But again, I would have to check the specifics on that. But certainly, we'll identify all of that and bring a report back.
No, thank you very much, Conor. Members, have we anybody else on their matters arising?
Yeah,
I see it there. No, that's it then, members. If there's nothing else on their matters arising, we'll move on then to number 8, which is the street naming and property numbering, and it's a request for development name, and that's Conor taking us through it.
Chair, could I just propose that, please?
I would second it, Alderman Devaney.
Proposed and seconded. Members content? Don't hear anybody with another view, so that's Grant, you're happy enough to pass then number 8. Number 9, a street name and a property number request for installation of bilingual signage.
Again, Chair, I'd like to propose that to the committee.
I'm happy to second, Councillor McGillis.
Proposed and seconded. Members content? Right. Moving on then, members, to number 10, the cemetery management guidance, and that's Conor again.
Thanks, Chair. This is to seek members' approval to adopt a draft cemetery management document setting out operational arrangements for council operated and maintained cemeteries following detailed discussions by the cemetery member officer working group. Members will recall that council resolved to establish a member officer working group to consider issues with regard to the day-to-day operation of council-owned and maintained cemeteries and to bring forward recommendations on associated issues for consideration by council. The group have met on a regular basis over the past 18 months to discuss operational issues and have put forward proposals with regard to issues that have arisen in cemeteries, including, for example, erection of grave surrounds, siting of commemorative benches, along with a number of related service issues. All of those are included in the draft cemetery management document as attached as Appendix 1. The document sets out the management arrangements and expected conduct of all those who use or visit council assemblies and is intended to ensure consistency of approach and to ensure that all assemblies are operated and managed fairly and safely for all. A public consultation exercise was conducted as part of this process, with members of the public asked to forward comments on the details outlined within the draft documentation. 13 number responses were received with comments and comments related mainly to dog foiling, and comments again from those who were favouring surrounds to those who would prefer not to have them, and a range of comments in between. In addition, one comment was received in relation to the flying of flags at the city cemetery. Members of the working group considered this and agreed that consideration of this issue should be taken forward as a parallel issue and outside of the document per se, and the recommendation is that is dealt with through Council's Good Relations working group. So the recommendation in front of members is to accept the Assembly Management Document as attached, and that we bring that into use across all cemeteries.
Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. Well, it's already outlined by Conor, and it's in the report as well. The Cemeteries Working Group met extremely regularly, actually, in terms of working groups that I've sat on over the years. This one has been one of the ones that has really met on a very unusually often basis, but the outworkings of having to do that and having done that, and even indeed the members of the working group visited the city cemetery in particular to see examples of some of the challenges that the cemeteries workforce in particular face on a daily basis. And so this document that's here now in front of us has been produced over 18 months. The representation on the Cemeteries Working Group comes from cross-party and individual independent members as well. And so this is, to my mind, the outworking of all of those particular discussions, Chair. I have nothing further to add other than to say that I think I would like to propose that we do adopt the cemetery management document that is here in front of us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Boyd. Councillor O'Neill, looking on.
Thanks, Chair. Can I just ask with regards to the benches and things and the removal of benches, for any benches that are currently in our cemeteries that have not, are not following this policy, so did not have approval, because obviously I'm sure from here on any benches that are erected without, without following the policy are removed. But for the ones that are existing, first of all, does it impact any current benches? Because obviously there would probably be a sensitive nature attached to these memorial benches in a way for families. So does it currently impact any benches, and how will that be dealt with?
Chair, happy to take that. I think that all through this process, we've been extremely sensitive to those who have, monuments, benches and so on across all cemeteries. And where there are particular issues, we'll deal with them directly with the families involved in a sensitive manner to try and find a resolution, that works for the family and for council. Primarily, it's the health and safety considerations of where these benches are that pose as opposed to challenges to it. We're not proposing that we would go in and anything that doesn't conform with the document would be removed. It will be looking at everything on an individual basis and trying to achieve a resolution that works for council and for those families involved. So, there will be no immediate impact. There may be discussions we've had to be had going forward, but again, those will be done sensitively and delicately, and bearing in mind, the particular circumstances for all of those kind of benches and memorials that are in the cemeteries.
You're happy enough, Councillor O'Neill, with that response?
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Thank you, Conor. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Conor, for the report. I too was also in the working group and understand the sensitivities that has been worked through on a regular basis, and was able to meet with the team in the cemeteries and see the health and safety aspect to it and how it was becoming an increasing issue. So I'm happy to second this document. I know it's something that's been well thought over. I know it's something that the team have tried to be very even-handed with it, and are very aware of the sensitivities of some families who have already erected benches or surrounds, and are continuing to work with them. So just thanks to Connor and the team and John and all who worked with us on this to try and find a way forward, and hopefully it does give the staff the clear guidelines for them to be able to do their job and not come up against health and safety issues in the future. But happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Jackson.
Good Chair, and I know I'm not a member of the working group, but Councillor Logue was a regular attender, and she fed back the findings of the working group and the discussions on a regular basis. And I'm all too aware of the sensitivities around memorials that have been erected around the cemetery. And I want to personally thank officers for their engagement with myself, along with bereaved family members who when officers took the time to meet with them on site and highlight and talk through some of the challenges that the council employees within the graveyard find. From our party's perspective, we fully endorse the findings of the report, and happy to support the proposal that's been seconded. But just further than that, I think the onus should be placed on, particularly around memorials that may breach the policy. There needs to be a focus on those sculptors who should be all too aware of the conditions and the regulations that are in place within our cemeteries, and particularly our lawn cemeteries, and there needs to be some responsibility on their part, and I don't. We from our perspective, we don't believe that that the burden or the responsibility to remove these should fall on either council or our family members. There needs to be some recourse for sculptors who are continuously breaching the policy. But in terms of the content of the report, from our party's perspective, we endorse it. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry. Members, we seem to have broad support here for this, proposed by Councillor Boyle, seconded by Councillor Ferguson, and members were content enough then to accept and adopt the cemetery management guidance plan there. So we'll declare that passed, and we'll move on to item 11, which is Craig and Burn Park consultation. And is that yourself and Helen?
That is, thanks, Chair. I know Helen's on the call as well with members, was to bring her in at some point. So it's to present the draft master plan for Craig and Burn Park and outline the engagement process to secure members' endorsement to proceed. Members will be aware that the Council regenerated Craig and Burn Park a number of years ago. This involved the development of a path network with associated lighting. The project has been well received by the community. However, the green space has been subject to some antisocial behaviour over the years. Council is currently working with the Glen Development Initiative on the development of a new community centre located in Craig and Burn Park. McAdam Design have been appointed to take that forward. That process is led by Council's Health and Community Directorate. Officers from the Council's Green Infrastructure team actively participate in the Community Centre Steering Group and the wider GDA-led Craig and Burn Park Master Plan Steering Group to support the co-design process and integration of the planned centre into the emerging plans for the wider parkland. There is a need to undertake wider resident engagement of the emerging plans. It is proposed to adopt the same process used for the regeneration of the lands at Cluny. This involved placing a pre-recorded presentation on Council website, media press release and a letter drop inviting residents to feedback. In addition, the plans will be displayed at GDA at the Glen Community Centre for local residents' convenience. All of that is set out in the appendix for members to consider, and the number of households within the survey is estimated to be 270. The wider resident engagement exercise will run from the 1st of August through to the 14th for a period of 2 weeks, and a subsequent report will be brought back to committee presenting the feedback at the earliest opportunity. The master plan elements have not been costed at this stage, nor has a funding strategy been identified. CRG has set aside £6,000 for design development. Post-consultation feedback and a QS will be appointed to give an order of cost for the proposed and GA elements of the project. So members are asked to endorse the engagement process and for officers to bring back a subsequent report at the earliest opportunity. As I said, Helen is on the call and has a presentation if members would like to run through that, but entirely at members' discretion.
Are you happy enough to let Helen go through the presentation, or see it's there provided? So members, does anyone wish to comment, or does anyone wish to propose this item? Mr. Boyd?
Yeah, Chair, obviously we have to open this up for public consultation, and this is the way to go, you know. So, I mean, it requires a proposal to do that. I'll propose that we do that, Chair. Thanks to Helen for coming to give us the presentation, but the presentation we have in our pack, it's all fairly self-explanatory. So I certainly propose we move in this direction as suggested. There are elements of what I'm looking at in the master plan that perhaps I don't fancy, but right now I don't think it's not the time and the place to go into that. I can be part of that consultation too. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Boyd. Councillor O'Neill? Oh, sorry, I'll let you in after Councillor O'Neill, if that's all right.
Thanks, Chair. I think this is to be very much welcome. I'm happy to second the proposal around going out to public consultation. I just have a few questions just around the public consultation. Just because I see that I'm not sure if Hatmore Park is included within that, or you know, the other state, you know, down the Glen. You know, is it defined to the houses that we see there on the map? And then just kind of around, I'm just wondering, kind of more generally speaking, just around the access to the Craigieburn Park, because I know like a lot of the antisocial behaviour kind of was around the steps, you know, coming down from Baldrick Crescent, I know that for pram users, wheelchair users, if you lived in Baldrick Crescent, it's actually quite inaccessible to get down then to the Craigieburn. And you know, within these plans, are we looking at the access to Craigieburn Park? Because I think, you know, if you did live in Baldrick Crescent, you'd have to go down all the way down to Osborne Street to get into Meadowbank Crescent, and the drop curbs are, you know, to get onto then the path, I think are a bit tricky to navigate, so we've been told. And then just, you know, around the crossing get into Craigieburn Park, you know, across Glen Road, it can be quite a busy road and things as well. So just kind of within the consultation, will there be questions looking at that, or are we waiting for local residents to raise those issues as well? So yeah, so basically how broad does this consultation go? And I'm sure like our response is welcomed from areas, you know, beyond that who use the park as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Helen, do you want to respond to that? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Maeve. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Maeve, would you mind just repeating the first part of your question? I missed which other parks you were referring to there.
Yeah, just one of the examples was Hatmore Park, you know, because it's right opposite Craigieburn, and I know that a lot of people who live there would, you know, use that park for walking their dogs. And it's about connectivity from there into Craigieburn. Yeah, well, yes, you know, because obviously they have to cross the road. But I'm just wondering, will the consultation go that far as well? You know, I know it's going to be publicly available in the Glen Community Centre, but you know, will they be actively outreached to?
Yeah, well, I suppose what we're going to do is try and reach people through various different means, through the more traditional methods of press releases and then social media, And then the Glen Community Centre will also be letting people know through their networks, and we can invite everyone to share the consultation that way as well. The letter drop, really, as we discovered when we were trying to do the similar process in Cluny, it was really just to make sure that people really directly affected by any proposals were definitely aware of it, because as you know, like, people miss things, through best will in the world, you try your best. So we just wanted to make sure that by doing that letter drop to the houses directly around, get the word out to those houses 100%, and then hope for the best that everyone else will pick up on it through the various different methods that we're proposing to use. And then, yes, we'll take on board any comments that we get from that, from elected members and from the community, and try and sort of come back with a finalised sort of proposal, which will hopefully be taking as many points as possible.
You're happy enough with that response, Councillor O'Neill?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Members, that's been proposed and seconded by Councillor Boyle and Councillor O'Neill. We're content to move on to item number 12, which is the Heritage Plan. Tony?
Thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of the report is to obviously appraise you of the final draft version of the Council's Heritage Plan, and they seek your endorsement for us to progress to finalisation and the actual formal launch of the document. You may recall item presented back in 2018, which authority was granted for Council to engage in the delivery of a joint Build Heritage Programme, development programme with HED. It's a three-year programme, and again had the aim of promoting awareness and the importance of our Build Heritage assets across the entire council district. The programme was jointly funded by Council and by DFC on HED on a Historic Environment Division, that is, on a 50-50 basis, and involved a series of initiatives, including the appointment of a dedicated Heritage Development Officer post, who was the establishment and promoting of internal and external Built Heritage forums, and the delivery of a number of programmes and initiatives that you can see there in paragraph 2.2. A key output for the programme has been the design and delivery of a dedicated plan focusing on the district's Built Heritage and historic environment, aligning with the relevant objectives within the Council's growth plan. Whilst Built Heritage features in many of Council's strategic documents, such as our tourism strategy, arts and culture, and the local development plan, up to this point, there's currently no standalone document. The strategic document is dedicated to the historic built environment. The 3-year pilot between Council and HED has from the outset recognised the need for the heritage plan, with both organisations working collaboratively in developing such a plan. As you can see from paragraph 3.2, the plan incorporates a holistic perspective on the district's heritage, rural and urban, and comprising of the following 4 themes, which are understanding our heritage, protecting our heritage, sustainably developing our heritage, and celebrating our heritage. The plan has been produced in consultation with key internal and external partners who have an operational role or interest in built heritage. The co-design process has included consultation workshops being held to discuss the direction and content of such a plan, as well as partners being afforded the opportunity to comment and suggest on earlier draft versions of the document. The final draft version of the plan, as you'll note, members from the committee pack, has been attached for your review and consideration, and subject to your approval, the officers are proposing that the plan is formally launched in September 2022, date to which to be confirmed. In terms of implications, the plan sets out the vision for how the potential of heritage within the council area can be achieved with clear actions over the next 5 years. The co-design nature of the plan is such that the proposed actions will be delivered in partnership between heritage stakeholders coordinated by council. It's recognised that there aren't any confirmed budgets available for the actions identified within the plan. However, it does represent a statement of intent by council and HED and its partners to work collaboratively to identify sources and to take forward as many of the relevant actions under each of the 4 strategic themes. Officers are already in the process of progressing some built heritage focused projects that align with the emerging themes and priorities coming out of the plan, and are committed to continuing to design and develop projects going forward. There's also recognition that some initiatives may not necessarily be grant dependent and instead have the potential to link to or enhance existing heritage policies and projects already being managed or developed by the council. And for example, one of those is the heritage outreach service that we would provide to property owners of heritage buildings who would come and speak to us, and we would provide advice and signposting in relation to how they might take forward regeneration projects or restoration projects. And that's just one example of a project where there's no direct cost, but nonetheless very important at the early stages. Coordination of the plan, members, will be important in terms of its management, monitoring and evaluation. Officers within the regeneration section are proposing to utilise our existing internal and external heritage stakeholder forums to assist in guiding the management and delivery of the plan over its 5-year initial timeframe. And we're proposing to convene the group twice yearly to review progress against the actions and timeframes. The plan has been prepared through the jointly funded DCSDC and HED Heritage Development Programme, and there are no direct financial implications to Council in the management and the monitoring of the plan going forward. The plan acknowledges that it will be dependent on funding availability across a number of sources, with officers and the partners endeavouring to identify and secure funding opportunities as they arise and as appropriate. So, members, the recommendations on the basis of the above and indeed the attached draft plan that we're asking you to endorse well, firstly, welcome any comments that you might have, and indeed then to endorse the finalisation of the heritage plan and for us to progress with the launch arrangements in September. Thanks very much, members.
First speaker is Councillor Dobbins. Angela.
Thank you, Chair. Tony, thanks very much for that. Tony, it's with regard to the 4 core themes. And I noticed that the third one is sustainably. Can I ask if see if this is endorsed today? Are we being shackled? I'm very, very conscious with regard to historic buildings and to keep the heritage, right? I understand that, yes, we do need to keep our heritage, but there is a major problem at the moment in obtaining what would you say, materials, that are not only maybe double the price, but are actually maybe 4 or 5 times the price of what they were in 2018. So I would just like a wee bit more clarity with regard to being able to sustainably have promote the heritage within that. Sorry, I've actually just lost what I had written out here, but because it was on the screen is taking it away. But I just needed to know if this is endorsed today, what happens to our heritage buildings. You did mention funding being available. Well, it's not available at present. So if we go ahead with this today, are we not shackling the hands of those people that maybe once upon a time been able to develop or to reinstate our heritage buildings? If you can get me draft there, Tony.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, Councillor Dobbins, I take your point in relation to, I suppose, the term sustainably developing heritage. And I guess, really, the issues that you've talked about around, for example, construction inflation is apparent across all projects. And obviously, it's a challenge, particularly for heritage buildings where typically the costs are a lot more. And I think, that those challenges are still going to be there in the absence of the heritage plan, in the sense that those are going to be real issues that people are going to, I suppose, be confronted with as they take forward any regeneration project, whether it's a heritage building or not. And I suppose then within a heritage context, typically, not always, but typically, again, regardless of the heritage plan, there may well be other constraints that are placed on those properties, such as whether it be planning from whether it's in a conservation area or indeed if it's a listed building or an area of townscape character, and those themselves will be challenges and perhaps maybe opportunities as well too for property owners. So I think really, going back to the report, this is a first for council in terms of us coming forward with a plan which is very much a clear statement of intent of our and just very strong interest in protecting, preserving and developing our built heritage. And I think that, again, maybe going back to one of the examples that I drew upon, Councillor Dobbins, during the presentation of the report, is that we do offer regular and routine advice to property owners who approach us and who ask for, for example, what are the challenges, where might we find funding because of the additional costs, and we do that just as a matter of course. And I think the Heritage Plan will amplify that further, get the message out that we are here as a team of council officers to try and support and be proactive, but also equally recognising, as you have rightly pointed out, those challenges and those constraints. But I think if we bring it right back, it's about trying to hold on to what we have, not to act as an impediment or get in the road of that, but to hold on to what we have and to try to work with what might be seen as a challenge to some people, and to try to create and look at maybe the wider opportunities around built heritage restoration, conservation and regeneration. Hopefully Councillor Dobbins have tried to answer that, and I'm more than happy to speak to you at any stage if you have any further queries. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tony and Angela. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Tony. I'm moving beyond your report to the document that's been produced, the booklet, and I'm looking at page 15 where we have the heritage highlights. But then when I go back to page 13 in that, the heritage highlights, according to that map, there are 53 of them. If you look on page 13 at the recorded heritage assets, there are considerable a lot more than the 53. So I suppose there's a question as to how were the 53 chosen as the highlights. And I'm wondering, would it be possible to have a list of those that are included on page 13, because we're just given numbers. I'm mindful when I look at that, the former railway station in Castleberg isn't there, and it's becoming an increasing concern in our area. The Kyle's shop frontage, the mill in Sion, the Gate Lodge in Sion, they aren't on the highlights, but I'm suspecting that they are contained within page 13 and all of those lists there. But I suppose it's really another one that I'm looking at. There's Ardstraw Old Graveyard is not included, which was reportedly attached to the former abbey in Ardstraw, and surely that is an historic graveyard that should be included. So perhaps I'm looking at the black dot on the white page rather than looking at the full page as to what isn't included on all of that. So would it be possible? The other thing is the historic bridges in our area. They're part of the built environment listed and all of that. But how were the 53 chosen vis-a-vis the many other, and I'm sure you'll agree, Tony, noteworthy highlights that are in the district? And can we be assured that all of those other ones that people might want to know about are at least included in a list somewhere? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alderman Hussey. Firstly, obviously we've been working on the basis of the recorded heritage assets and working very closely with colleagues in Historic Environment Division in terms of what appears. physically on the relevant registers. And what we've done, we've extracted that information and populated it as part of the table on page 13, and indeed then on the highlights on the following page. Now, clearly, the highlights are those also which correspond to having relevant designations as well, Alderman Hussey. However, I note, and I suppose really the challenge for us has been that, you know, there are heritage assets that are out there that may not necessarily have any form of designation or be formally recorded and therefore absent from the list. And again, that's something that we can follow up with HED in terms of trying to establish, you know, if there's potential for us to maybe add, you know, ones which you're missing. And I suppose the whole purpose of this exercise today is obviously to get your own thoughts and views on the report before we take it to the final stage. And if there are any omissions, for example, or any highlights that you feel that need to be there, then it's for us as officers to take that on board and ensure that they're reflected as best we can in the next and hopefully final version of the plan.
Supplementary, Chair, on that.
Go on ahead there.
All of the items on page 13 in the various categories that are round that wheel there. Is there a list available of those somewhere that members can check relative to their own areas? Thank you.
To the Chair, yes, Alderman Hussey, we can actually circulate that out to all members of the committee for their reference.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
And just on a wee follow on there from what Alderman Hussey's raised there, you know, he did raise Archstraw Cemetery, and I know we've raised before, and Councillor McHugh's raised it in regards to the historical group and Scarvahearn. The wee cemetery is not included on it, but even maybe I'm wrong there, but as there might be a wee just the accuracy on the map for number 13. I see is Maharkeel Graveyard. And that's not where Maharkeel Graveyard is, as Councillor McHugh or Councillor Maguire would know anyway. So it's just to see where that's on the wrong side of Castledairg. But it's just to see if it's far away or in that one. So Councillor, are you on the same issue, Councillor Boyle? Yeah. I'm sorry, I'll let Councillor Jackson in then. Sorry. Do you want, whichever one of you two men want to go first?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Tony, for the report. And from our perspective, we're happy to endorse the report. And it is good that council's working in a partnership with HED. I know for members of the planning committee, it can be frustrating at times, particularly when we're looking at repurposing and modernising some historic buildings and listed buildings. And I think the report and the heritage plan identifies and highlights the fantastic built heritage and historic environment that exists right across our city and district, and it's worth protecting. And any steps towards that that supports that protection, we fully support. And it's good that we have a council perspective in relation to this, because touching on the point that Councillor Dobbins had made around the sustainability, I think that's a focus that came very, very strongly from this council's planning committee around sustaining and repurposing and retaining a lot of our built heritage right across the city and district. On a slightly separate point, and it's somehow related to the report, but in relation to the walls around the walled city. And I understand that 20 years ago, there was an attempt to gain UNESCO World Heritage status for the walls, and that was unsuccessful. Is that something that can be revisited as part of this process, or would it, or a separate process? Because 20 years is a relatively long time, and given the how we view our walled city and how we've developed our city centre, encompassing the walls themselves. It may be worth revisiting to see if an attempt to gain that UNESCO World Heritage status for the walls themselves. So just wouldn't mind, Tony, your thoughts on that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Jackson, for your comments. In relation to your specific query, obviously, and again, in council quite a number of years to remember those conversations and those processes, and I think it's always remained an aspiration for us to have some form of international heritage designation, and obviously we're mindful that the walled city, it's not just a built fabric, but it's a living sort of place in terms of the culture, the business, the retail, and all of the other dynamics that are located within and around the walled city. And I think that what would be beneficial for us to liaise with our business and culture colleagues, because they may well also may well be having or may well have had conversations in and around international designation. I can't comment on that, but I think it would be beneficial now that you raised it that we coordinate with our business and culture colleagues and bring a report back to this committee just to update in terms of where we're at with, where the concept of designation is and what might be the direction going forward.
Thank you for that. Councillor Boyle.
Thanks, Chair. Well, actually, funnily enough, Councillor Jackson must have been reading my mind there, because I was wondering about the very same matter in relation to the walled city and the opportunity that has arisen from that. It's very evident now over the last couple of decades that our city walls in particular are indeed the jewel in the crown of the city. It was once said, actually, clearly during a period of great stress and difficulty that we had in all our communities, that at one time the walls would have been considered a bit of a noose around everybody's neck, but people now consider them the necklace and a thing of some considerable importance and beauty. And I, for one, know that every day of the week now these days. But I would encourage that we do revisit those particular conversations as well. Notwithstanding all of that, again, I'm kind of repeating a little bit of what Councillor Jackson said here. Of course, members of the Planning Committee are well aware and well focused on matters in relation to built heritage and trying to find that fine balance and trying to reimagine and repurpose heritage buildings as well. And just in relation to some of the matters that Alderman Hussey raised, yes, there's clearly a very long list of sites, but there's one for me that looks like a glaring omission already, and that is, we have a cemetery here in the city, and it was opened in 1853, and it's not on that map. And there are some very interesting elements of our city cemetery, I think, that would be well worthy, and as worthy as some of those other cemeteries. I know it's not a competition, but you think about the crypts and the headstones and the various monoliths that you have inside the city cemetery and stuff like that, So for my mind, that looks like a glaring omission in that map, because if we want to promote that as a heritage venue, then we can't afford to ignore that at this point. I know it's a working cemetery, but there are very large swathes of that cemetery that are not significantly of working value anymore, and they are very much of interest to visitors. I'm sure you would probably concur with me on that. So if there's any way of perhaps reflecting those particular matters and that particular matter specifically, then I think that would be something well worth doing, or certainly investigating the possibility of doing that, Tony. But again, thank you very much for the report. I am a lover of our built heritage. I'm a huge fan of it. I see the value of obviously promoting and protecting the built heritage. But again, as Councillor Jackson's pointed out, there's a fine balance between that and trying to repurpose, because sometimes it can fall down between two stools and a building's just left to go to rack and ruin because nobody can actually afford to do it up anymore. And again, that probably references some of what Councillor Dobbins was saying as well, you know, so that's a broad view on the whole thing, I suppose. But thanks for the report, and it's a first-class report, absolutely.
Through Chair, Councillor Gord, thanks for your comments also. In relation to cemetery, your point is well made, and we'll review that in the context of the other comments from members as well. But I suppose just to, you know, as a contextual sort of piece on this, is that we are all, fully recognise the importance of the cemeteries throughout the district, and obviously, we're very keen to, and again, only yesterday, officers were meeting yesterday to identify potential funding sources that might deliver upon a programme of interventions that look to so raise the profile and the importance of historic importance of each of our graveyards in terms of interpretive opportunities, you know, improvements to access and other areas and wayfinding and signposting, etc. And that's very much, we're very much actively in terms of scoping that. The Scarberan Cemetery Chair, just for information, as part of that commitment, we're actually, you know, and again, you'll be aware that's come through this committee previously in terms of officers following up with that particular group, and we've been engaging with them now for the past few months, both Connor and myself, and we have a meeting scheduled, incidentally, with the Scarberan group tomorrow afternoon, just to explore that project proposal in further detail, but also to identify how that project could sit within a wider range of projects that we as council take forward, but working in consultation with the relevant community stakeholder groups that you know, that are that attach themselves to these types of projects, because we can learn a lot from their local knowledge and history and heritage, and by combining forces we think we can bring forward a good project proposal that might meet some potential funding sources which we're aware of, which are coming up further on in this year. And I think, members, it might be beneficial that once we start to scope that in further detail, that we bring you back a particular report on that and seek your comments and approval for developing it in further detail.
Thanks for that, Tony, and that sounds very exciting actually as well. And actually, it strikes me that, you know, there's very evidently cross-departmental elements to what we're talking about here. It's not simply just this directive, but clearly business and culture will play into that in a big way too.
Yeah, and Chair, again, just on that, our meeting yesterday was involving business and culture colleagues as well, and we're working collaboratively because we see not just the environment and regeneration and heritage benefits, but also the tourism and other benefits that emerge from development proposals such as these. So again, thank you.
Thank you, members. Councillor Edwards, next.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't going to contribute because been discussed at length already, but I did want to raise one thing, and just starting off, I do agree with Alderman Hussey. It'd be good to get to all those historical areas sort of mapped out. It would be good to see that map, and again, I agree with them on Castler Railway Station and Herman's Mill as well. One of the areas there, it's actually on, I think it's page 5 there, Chair, is Harry Avery's Castle. The Derg members will know it quite well. It's I do believe it's owned by DERA, or I think it's Environment Agency. It's sort of sitting on its own in the middle of the field, fenced off, and I believe there's an investigation underway. I think council are looking at whether there's a right of way to it. But I suppose my questions there, our Chair, is as part of this plan, and I definitely do welcome it, will there be like an audit of those historical sort of buildings? Like, you look, Harry Avery's Castle was built in 1320, a long time ago. Will there be an audit of what's there existing? And I'm thinking of Harry Avery's Castle, and even Liscloon Castle there outside Donamana as well. It's sort of sitting on its own, sort of underutilised. There doesn't seem to be much work being done around it, and I suppose it's in the context of making sure that it is preserved, or making sure whatever works are needed to preserve it into the future, so future generations can enjoy it. But that's the sort of question I have there, Chair, especially around Harry Avery's Castle. As I say, I've been making some inquiries into there about it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you again, Councillor Edwards, for your comments. And in relation to your specific question, in terms of audits, obviously one of the key there's an action within the draft plan at the moment under the understanding or heritage strategic objective around us looking to identify opportunities where we can audit heritage assets as much as we can, and they work closely with HED in that respect. And again, very happy to engage with you and any other members in terms of any opportunities that you might see for us to maybe, I suppose, work with HED to try to identify how we can take these forward. However, in relation to, I suppose, taking the audit to maybe another dimension, I am aware that there is, I suppose, there has been an exercise ongoing for a while now with HED in terms of them having mapped throughout Northern Ireland all of their all of the, I suppose, monuments, heritage monuments that are in state care, and identifying, I suppose, auditing, I suppose, their condition and identifying, for example, how, works might be developed and taken forward, subject to budget and other considerations. So there are processes ongoing within central government in terms of looking at the current estate and identifying how and where funding might be made available to, I suppose, for those that are in priority need. But again, Councillor Edwards and through the Chair, we're always keen to, as we do, we feed into that process and indeed other processes, and we're keen to obviously continue to do that. So if, for example, Harry Avery's Castle or indeed any other heritage monuments or features that you're aware of, you feel that require or deserve further attention. Again, the whole essence of this plan is about putting heritage first, and for us as officers, working with HED and indeed whether it be private landowners or public agencies who've got responsibility to try to put those higher up the agenda and try and work to see if we can address some of the issues that you may be aware of as local elected members in those areas.
You're content, Councillor Edwards?
Thanks for the comment. Thank you.
Members, I don't think we have a proposer and seconder as yet for this. I don't. Councillor Jackson's proposed to have a seconder.
Happy to second, Alderman.
Alderman Hussey, thank you. Members, proposed and seconded, and we're content with item 12. Members, the following items are open for information. I am minded to just go through them, and if anyone has an issue which they wish to raise, they can either put it in the chat or they can shout out here. So our first item is number 13, the building control applications. Has anyone wished to right, I see Councillor O'Neill there, you're coming on, but right, that's number 13. No one else for 13. Number 14, COVID Recovery Small Settlement Programme. I'll take it in order. And Councillor McHugh.
Morgan Chair, thank you. Chair, just obviously welcome the progress to date and the work that's went on this thus far. I've raised this point previously, Chair, and just, I suppose I'm reiterating again, reading through the report. Obviously, stands to reason that those commercial properties or buildings that are in the worst state of repair or in need of repair will probably, look, judging by the report, seems to be given priority. But I do make the point again, Chair, that I would hope it's a situation where it's a case where responsible business owners or property owners have invested in their building and have kept their building presentable, that they're not at any disadvantage when it comes to those who might wish to avail of this scheme. So I just hope that's not the case, and maybe if there's any clarity could be given on that, it'd be appreciated. Thank you, Chair.
Through the Chair, and thank you, Councillor McHugh. Obviously, that's a point that has been well made at this committee, as you rightly point out, and it's something which we as officers are very aware of, and it's something which we would regularly encounter when we are delivering schemes of this nature in terms of trying to where and how we target buildings. Clearly, decorative need is one of the key pieces of criteria that we look at when we are looking to take forward schemes. However, as you see from the report, and it may not be clear, and again, apologies for that, but just to, I suppose, to clarify that Obviously, we're still working on the basis of we require the design team to come on board and to do a complete quantification of the work that we've done as officers to date in terms of costing that, and subject to budget. Then our proposed approach is to obviously look at all of the commercial properties within the defined centres and target those for assistance. Because Councillor McHugh, you do make a valid point around those people who have over the years looked after their buildings, and therefore, and through our grading exercise that we did as officers, I think you'll see we identified something around a total of 222 commercial properties, and the substantial number of those actually would qualify for assistance by subject to the exercise that we've undertaken. However, there's only a few that sat outside of that, but we feel that it's only fair that we include all of the properties at this stage for assistance. What I have to just caution is that obviously we are aware of the fact that we still don't have the final cost quantified yet, and we may have to, undertake a further filter, but it's not the intention at this moment in time. And if we have to do that, we'll come back to you for an update and for approval. But it's very much our intention to progress with targeting all of the properties at this moment in time.
Councillor McHugh, are you content with that response, or do you want to come back?
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
Alderman Hussey, do you want to comment? I know it's the same point.
Same point exactly. And I endorse Councillor McHugh's remarks with regard to those who do take care of the buildings. I should declare an interest as a business owner in Castledurg and the potential applicant to the scheme. I do have one area of concern, and that is the overall control of the scheme. Now, as I understand it, all of the organisational part of it would be an application into the scheme, and then it is the scheme which will take forward, and they will appoint the relevant contractors, etc., to undertake the work. And I presume then that quality control lies within the remit of council via as organisers of the scheme. I experienced a similar situation within the old SIF situation when an organisation, not a business, but an organisation that I was working with at the time, had their scheme taken over essentially by Fermanagh Council, and it caused all sorts of issues. So it's that issue of quality control on individual sites that folk will be working at would cause me a concern going forward. But I suppose rather than comment on, I've made comment on it, but perhaps it's best to await the finalised scheme to see how this is all going to materialise. Thank you, Chair.
Just before I bring Tony in, I'll let Councillor Edwards in the same point come in as well.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the scheme as well, I agree with the previous speakers there. I just wanted to ask about the Siam Mills revitalisation and ask Tony, has that been completely de-scoped now? And if there are budgetary constraints, when you look at it and you get the teams in place, is it possible that that will be de-scoped in the future? Because I'm just aware of that area of Siam Mills, and it was included within the initial proposal sort of brought the committee. I would just like a wee update on that. And again, I agree with what the previous speakers raised as well. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Chair, I'll take Councillor Edwards' query firstly. Our aspiration or our intention at this stage is to target all of the commercial properties that we've identified within the report. And we've also noted that within Siam Mills, there is also some scope for us to take forward a small environmental improvement scheme within the main street there, just opposite the the toilet block and the commercial block there, and that very much remains our intention. Now, obviously, it will be very much budget dependent once we have the cost done, but at this stage, council members, it is our intention to progress as we have previously reported, and if there are any changes as a consequence of, I suppose, the challenging economic climate that we're currently operating in, then obviously we may have to bring back a further report for your consideration and for members' approval. But just to, I suppose, at this stage to reassure that our intention is to focus on within Sion a mixture of commercial shopfront painting and also that small environmental improvement scheme where that area where the street furniture is currently located and which is obviously in need of repair and updating. Thank you. Sorry, and in relation to Alderman Hussey's query, just I suppose really just for members' reference, and you'll have noted within the report, the nature of these schemes are such that it's not practical for us to issue out grants, individual grants, and take applications because obviously, through previous experience of delivering schemes like these many years ago, they can encounter delivery challenges along the way, where for example, you're working to a time frame for funding to be delivered, and it might well be that some property owners are, maybe for very good reason, experiencing delays and therefore placing funding at risk. So the delivery strategy over the past 10 years in the delivery of these schemes, and as is the case here, is that we as council will take full control for all of the design elements through, as you can see from the report, appointing a design team who will come up with obviously the recommended interventions. We will then engage with each of the individual property owners to get their input and their buy-in and agreement to being part of the scheme. And at which point then, once we do that, we're in a position to go out to tender, and we as council will oversee, I suppose, the management and delivery of the works on site. And there's an economies of scale there, clearly, when we're obviously working on that basis, but also from a risk management perspective, it's also ensuring that all of the projects are coming to the finish line at the same time, and we're not encountering any challenges with funders afterwards around certain projects which may not have finished in time and everything else. And it's a delivery model that has been tried and tested and which works, and we're seeing that already in Strabane Town Centre, and we'll be applying that same model in the delivery of this scheme. And hopefully, Alderman Hussey, and that just to conclude, that introduces and ensures that there is that quality control element. But we're not just doing this ourselves; we're doing it with the buy-in and the input of each of the property owners as well, too, in terms of them signing off on the works to their properties. Thank you.
Alderman Hussey and Councillor Edwards, are you content?
Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, we'll wait the finalised scheme, I suppose. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, members. Just touch here, number 15 is proposed disabled parking bays. Nobody wishes to speak. Number 16.
Opposed, Chair.
Just open for information. I'm just touching it, Councillor White. Thank you, though. Dual language, number 16. No one on indicating. Number 17, notification of mineral prospect and licence award, and that is Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. And, I think we as a council should be incredibly dissatisfied with this response from the FE. I think they answered a lot of our points, but it's completely unsatisfactory answers. Basically, they're saying that they couldn't share the full depth of information that's really needed to give a consultation response because of the commercially sensitive material for the applicant, which is Dalreedy and Gold. And I think we as a council deal with commercially sensitive information all the time, and we're far more than capable to actually deal with this and that's in a confidential way. So I think that's one incredibly disappointing answer that they spoke about a lot. And then just the other answer was around the points that we raised are being dealt with within the judicial review. But how can they then grant these prospecting licenses while a judicial review is ongoing? And I think we as a council and our planning committee should be very concerned about how this is being done. This has not been a meaningful consultation or consideration of our objections, and I'm not satisfied by any of their answers. I think the Department for Economy are superseding our planning powers. There was information released there in June June this year, and 69.13% of our council area, of the whole Derry City and Strabane District Council area, is currently under prospecting licenses. And that is absolutely shocking, because why does that amount of land need to be under prospecting license? It's for mining. And when we look at that comparatively to neighbouring councils, in Mid Ulster it's only 23.21%. For Mananoma District Council it's 26.07%. So our council area is completely at risk for gold mining, and we have no power whatsoever when it comes to these decisions. We give a very strong objection letter to the Department for Economy, and they ignored it. The process is an absolute sham, and they're playing by their own rules. And and I don't know how, I don't expect anything different, obviously, because the Department for Economy have gone out to Canada and have gone out to other countries inviting these gold mining companies in to Ireland. You're saying we're open for business. You can make a bucket load of money off our natural resources. Come and extract, and come to the west of the Ban and extract, because when we look at this as well, it's west of the Ban that's really being exploited for our natural resources. So how can the Department for Economy, after putting their hand out to these extractive industries, then refuse them planning permission? It's all a sham. It's completely corrupt. And I think we should, as a council, we should write back to the Department for Economy and express our absolute dissatisfaction with their response. And I've been talking to the anti-mining groups, and they're incredibly dissatisfied with this as well. And it's with the anti-mining groups that that we really need to that's where the power to stop the Dalradian gold and other extractive and destructive toxic industries. That's where we really need to put the effort in to stop these industries, because it's the only way, because obviously these processes by which we're trying to follow through just are not working. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Neal, for your comments. Councillor Neal, are you making a proposal here to respond? And if you are, would you mind putting it in the chat box?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat box now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Does anyone else wish to pass comment? Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Chair. And once the proposal's put on the chat box, I'd be happy to second it on behalf of Sinn Féin. But fully endorse the comments from Councillor O'Neill. It's disappointing that Councillor Dan Kelly wasn't able to join us at today's meeting, because and I know the points that Councillor O'Neill made around dissatisfied by the response from DFE. I know from speaking to Councillor Kelly, I think the language that he was using was angered. But it isn't surprising, because it's the same old from the Department of Economy. It's what we've come to expect from a council in this part of the north, and we should expect a lot better from that department. And with a bit of luck, things will change within that department, but we need political will to do that. But I just wanted to come in and endorse the comments that Councillor O'Neill has made, and sort of re-emphasise that we've been here before with the Department of Economy completely ignoring the wishes and the views of our council, and most importantly, the people that are living in the Sperrin AOMB that could potentially be exploited by these multinational companies. So I'm just getting sight of the proposal now, and on behalf of Sinn Féin, happy to, more than content to second the proposal from Councillor O'Neill. Thanks, Chair.
Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in. And on this issue, Chair, just to notify that we will be abstaining on the proposal.
Right, members, I think from the feeling here, and I see messages in there, I think the majority are content to support this proposal, but there are a few abstentions. And I think we're content enough that we've got those recorded. I don't think we need to go through the vote unless you want to. No. Councillor Boyle.
Chair, just for the record, I think we need to know who's abstaining.
Are you content to take the vote?
Yeah, Chair, we take a recorded vote in terms of the proposal that's in the box. The council right to DFE to express our dissatisfaction with the response and our objections to the mineral prospecting licence remain. So Alderman Maurice Devaney.
Abstain.
Alderman Derek Hussey. Alderman Keith Kerrigan. Alderman David Ramsey. Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Angela Dobbins.
For Connor.
Councillor Stephen Edwards.
For.
Councillor Rachel Ferguson.
For Connor.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
For.
Councillor Dan Kelly. Councillor Emma McGinley.
For Connor.
Councillor Ray McHugh. Councillor McHugh. Yeah, 0-2. Yeah. Councillor Maeve O'Neill.
For.
And Councillor Martin Riley.
For Connor.
Just to check then, Councillor McHugh. Chair, that's 9 for and two abstentions.
Members, that passes, and we're content enough then to move on from item 17 for information. We'll move on to, if anyone wishes to speak, I'll raise it. Number 18, Maboy update. If no one wishes to raise anything. Number 19 was the play plan consultation update, and Councillor Edwards wishes to come in. Stephen.
Chair, thanks very much for letting me in. I'm not going to rehash the debates we've had in the past, Chair. But I think it's page 55, Chair, for or gives the DERG recommendations, and I just want to put in record that my opposition to closing the play park and CMOs or repurposing it. The public have been in touch with me, the local community group that has a play park on their site have been in touch as well with a lot of opposition to that. So I'm disappointed after the survey that was carried out, I think it was late last year, that's still in there as a proposal, Chair, because there was in my view, and speaking to residents there was a lot of opposition to it. So I just wanted to put that on record, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. And again, that has been raised with myself as well. There seems a very strong, there may well have been a lack of maybe engagement with the community in regards to when the play park was, the new play park was built, but there's a lot of engagement from the community in opposition to the closure of the existing one. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councillor Edwards for highlighting that particular issue, which you've already endorsed yourself, Chair, and endorsing that. We've just had a complaint that the department weren't listening to the concerns of this council. Well, here we have a case where a council consultation has not listened to the concerns of the residents of Sion Mills. And like Councillor Edwards, I've had overwhelming representation with regard to any proposed closure of this particular play park. It flies in the face of the consultation results that I suspect Council received. Obviously, I'm not aware of the full detail of that, but I think it's one that has to be looked at. Certainly from what I've heard and what's been told to me direct, that is not the desire of the people in that area. So as I said, we'll complain about the department not listening, but how can we complain when we as a council don't listen to the residents on a consultation? Thank you.
Chair, I'm happy to take that up with the team and come back to the Derek members directly with further comments.
Thank you. I think the Derek members, not wishing to speak on their behalf, but I think they'll be content with that, hopefully. Number 20, again, it's open for information, proposed asphalt plant on Burnfoot, County Donegal. If anyone wishes to raise anything, if there's nothing else, then that's open for information. Can I get a proposer to go into confidential?
Proposed, Alderman Devaney.
And
Seconded, Rachel.
yeah, it's sorted here between you, Councillor Boyle and Alderman Devaney, and it's supported as well by other members. Can we check when we're in confidential?